Is that a breakup?
I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Welcome to The Feeling Station, a podcast that touches on breakup stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give lessons that they have learned from their experiences. We hope you find the stories entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful, given the lesson behind everything we're going to talk about. Now, with me today, I've got a fine lady who's had a little bit of trouble getting to the studio, obviously because of traffic. So sorry about that.
It's cool.
That's part of the trouble that you have being in the UK and using the M25 for transport. It's just absolutely hectic. Mm-hmm. So hopefully you're not feeling too tired to tell your story.
I think I'm good.
I suspect you have a juicy one to tell.
Very juicy, I think.
If you were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being it's absolutely rubbish and 5 being, oh, it's going to blow you, where do you place the story?
I'm a fine 8.
It's an 8.
I would say 8 because
So you're actually above the scale. The scale is 1 to 5, and you've taken it to 8.
Well, because it can have some drama as well.
Wow. So. Okay. So in the spirit of the podcast, we try and keep you anonymous.
Okay.
So what's really important for me to do is to pick out a name, and whatever name I pick out is going to be the name I'm going to use to refer to you. So we're not going to say your name, and the name that I have picked out today is Priya.
Wow.
Yeah, that's because we've moved over to the Asian side of things. The previous episodes we've done, we picked up African names.
Okay.
And now we've gone over to Asia, and yours is Priya.
Okay.
And that means kind, and that is a name from India.
Okay.
And now we want to keep the name of the guy that you were with anonymous as well.
Right.
All right. So if you want to pick out a name and then tell us what the name is, what the meaning is, and what the origins are, that would be great.
Okay. So Priya and... Oh, okay. Wow. Priya and Mandip.
That's an easy one to remember.
Okay. Yeah. Mandip, one who lights in the heart. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, how closely does that match to your experience with this guy? Did he lighten up your heart? Did you make your heart glow? Did you make you feel special?
I glowed, and I probably lit my own light. Well, you know what? He did light my light.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a really befitting name.
It is.
So you can remember Mandip, is it?
I can.
Okay.
I can.
So,
I was thinking of shortening it, but it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. You can't call him man, can you?
No.
Okay, so we got Mandip and Priya.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we get into the real deep, dark stuff of why you guys broke up, I'm really keen on understanding what the lesson behind what you're going to tell us today is. So what do you expect anybody listening to this podcast to learn from what you're going to talk about?
Oh.
It doesn't have to be one lesson. It could be 3, 5, 7, 10, or just one.
Oh, that's very interesting, actually. I think I would say the lesson would be to be free. I would say, I'd say be free.
Okay.
Because I think, sometimes with hurt, you feel caged in.
Yeah.
Or with disappointment, you feel caged in, or I was going to use the word stigmatized.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the lesson out of it is to actually
be free.
Be free. Yeah.
Now let's get into it. So tell me where you and Mandip met. What happened? Where did you guys meet? Where does your love story begin?
In the kebab shop.
Kebab shop.
So the irony of that. Yeah. Well, actually, when we told my parents, we said it was in a Turkish restaurant. So yeah,
you kind of sweetened it up.
Yeah, you got it. So it was in a kebab shop.
And I love kebab myself. Okay, so who's in the kebab shop? You in the kebab shop? He's in the kebab shop?
Okay,
or you're in at the same time?
Well, do you know what the irony of that is? That I was coming from a Christian conference.
Okay.
So we were singing the whole night and everything.
Yeah.
And we were in a little mini car, and I said to the girls, I'm hungry, I'm really starving.
Yeah.
So managed to find a kebab shop in the middle of where we were.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to be chatted up that night. There was just this confidence in me as I was walking, and I saw 3 guys in the shop, and I was like, oh, damn it.
Something is going to happen.
Something is going to happen.
But you didn't know which one of those 3 was going to be.
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. And it's weird, though. I don't know if I can say this now, but I already had a criteria. That I had written down.
Okay.
Like the kind of guy that I like, whether he's tall, short, or whatever. So it was all written down. But I was so specific that I wanted him to greet me in a particular way.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You weren't asking for too much, were you, love?
I wasn't, because you know what? I think the thing is, I felt like I had so many options at that time, and it was difficult to narrow them down. So I had to be specific, And I walked in, and he was like, he looked at me, and I thought, okay. And then he came, put his hand out, and he was like, "Hi, I'm Mandip."
Now how well did that greeting meet your criteria?
It was,
is that what you expected?
It was
from your checklist.
From my checklist, it was very, very close to what I expected, because I wanted him to greet me properly. I didn't want the wagwan babes. I didn't want the you look sweet.
Massage.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I really wanted a well-mannered approach. And he showed that, and he introduced himself first. I didn't want him to ask me, "Yo, who you? Like, what you doing here?" And things like that. And also the irony about it was that we were in a place where a well-mannered greeting wouldn't really happen. So the fact that he came up and he was like, "Hi, I'm Mandip," started our conversation in a good place.
And then fast forward a couple of, I don't know, days, minutes, hours. How did you guys keep in touch? Did he ask for your number?
He asked for my number, and typical of a London girl, I said no. And I didn't want to give him my number, so he gave me his number.
Okay.
And the whole thing was that, if I call you, then I promise I will give you my number.
Okay.
So I took a while. I think I took about 2-3 weeks before I called him. And it wasn't to call him to get to know him. I called him because at that time I was bored and I didn't have
some entertainment.
I needed something to do,
let me holler at Mandip.
Exactly. I was like, it literally was one of those scroll through the phone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Kebab.
Exactly. So when Mr. Kebab answered the phone, he was like, "Yo, Priya, what's up?" And I'm like, "I withheld my number. How'd you, kind of thing." So that literally knocked me for sixes, because I was like, okay, I withheld my number. You don't know who's that, but straight away you knew, kind of thing. So I was obliged to give him my number because he asked. He was like, "Well, you did promise." Yeah. And that's where it all kicked off. We had long conversations, the marathon conversations, 8 hours on the phone. We really had a good friendship over the phone.
Okay.
But we didn't meet again until 4 or 5 months later. Yeah.
Why is that? Is it because you guys were kind of long distance or?
No, we were close enough, but I would love to say I was playing hard to get.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
But obviously the cinema didn't happen when I wanted it to happen after that 2 weeks. But it was just schedules, kind of thing. I was busy. He was busy. He was traveling. So was I. So we just maintained the friendship. Yeah. And and I think it was a good foundation actually.
So you weren't really looking for love at that point. So you didn't go in there thinking, "Oh yeah, I want to be with this guy because I want him to be my husband or whatever." You just said, "I'm going to go for the friendship route, and then if it blossoms, great."
Do you know? I'm going to be honest with this because I wasn't. Yeah, I was ready for a relationship, hence the reason why I had my whole list. So I was at that stage where I'm like, you know what, I'm ready for the real deal kind of relationship. Whether I had penciled him out as fitting that, I wouldn't say I had. But what I will say is that the second time that I met him, I knew he was the one.
Okay.
So...
Jeez, wait. When you say the one, what level of the one are we talking about? As in the boyfriend, or this guy is going to be my husband?
This guy is going to be my husband.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how deep I was ready, And I think the thing is because he had ticked a lot of boxes in our conversations as friends. And I liked his independence as a guy, kind of thing. I think for me, one of the key things was I didn't want a guy that was needy. Yeah. I wanted a guy that was confident of who he was and who intimidated me a little. I wanted to be sitting and thinking, who are you? You know, kind of thing.
And he did that for you.
Yeah, and he did that. He did that.
So how do things then start going wrong?
Oh,
Or in fact, I think I've gone into that too quickly. How long was it before you guys decided, okay, this is no longer just a friendship, but this is actually turning into a relationship and developing into something? How long did that take?
I think it took us a while because he also had come out of a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a funny story. There was a time when we were on a date. And he still had some of his brethren that used to call him and be like, yeah, we saw your ex thing, that. You know, and I remember this particular date, I was sitting in the car with him and I was ready to date him, but I didn't appreciate those calls.
Okay.
And we were actually, can I say we were in North Greenwich
Okay.
area, and there's a cinema there. So we were due to go to the cinema, and he's on the blower with his friends talking about this girl. And I'm sitting there quietly, and I'm thinking, dude, you've just picked me up.
And you can hear this conversation.
I'm hearing this conversation, and I'm sitting in the car thinking, okay, you've just picked me up. The most you did was just give me a peck. You haven't said hi. You haven't said anything. We managed to get to the cinema, and he's still talking about this thing. So, and we're sitting outside of the cinema parked, and I'm seeing all the buses just going past.
And he's still talking.
And he's still talking. And
about
I said,
this thing.
Yeah. So I signaled to him like, yo, just give me 1 minute. I went straight into the bus. Walked, because I think he thought I was going to the toilet whilst he finishes his call. And he's watching me walk.
No.
And I ran for the bus. And then when he clocked what was going on, he's not. Yeah, you know, so like, because I needed him to come correct. You know, I was like, listen, we're trying to do something here. And you're still stuck in the past somehow.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether he was stuck in the past because of him or because of his brethren keep pulling him back. And he ran after the bus. So I think it's when the bus stopped at like 3 or 4 stops after, he managed to catch up with it. And and I literally only got off because I didn't want him to cause a scene. You know, I didn't want the whole begging in front of people, everything.
Yeah.
But it was something like that I thought, so you'd chase after me, you know?
That must mean something. That must have sent a strong signal to you.
It did.
I mean, and to him as well, because you kind of put him in his place to say, look, this is not the time for this sort of thing. I'm not looking for this.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, for me, I've always been adamant that, do you want a girl or do you want Priya? Do you want me? You know, kind of thing. And so for Mandip to show that he's chasing after Priya, it was like, okay, that's us.
Okay.
You know? So yeah, so I think it's then that I started to say, okay, let's set the pace.
So how far did this guy match what your head told you? Because remember, your mind told you this is the one. Did he at some point become the one?
He did.
Oh, he did?
He did.
As in, he became your husband?
Yes.
Yeah.
We got married
Okay.
under interesting circumstances. We got married. And he was really sweet. I think the thing is, for me also, I knew he was the one because I was now in a position where I wanted to give him me.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, I need to give him something. And some of the things, you know, I wasn't giving it out. And I was now in a space where I was like, he deserves it.
How long was this not giving it up for? How long did this guy need to wait?
Do you know what? He waited for 6 months.
6 months?
Not patiently. Don't get me wrong, because he's going to think I made him sound like
You didn't even go the 90-day route. You doubled it.
I doubled it. Do you know what? I doubled it because obviously we had the friendship in the beginning.
Okay,
and then also there was the stuff that I wasn't too sure what was up with him.
Yeah.
And then I think once he started to show that, listen, I'm after you, you know. And he used to say some crazy stuff. He'd be like, girl, you know you're my wife. And I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, oh, but you never asked me out. You never said like, well, will you be my girlfriend? You know, kind of thing. So little things like that. So I think there was one date that we had in central London and I didn't want it to end. And that's when I kind of knew that, listen,
this is it.
This is it. He deserves a bonus.
So you guys then become husband and wife?
We became husband and wife through pregnancy.
Okay.
Yeah, he kind of hit a home run, and
Man had been loading up for 6 months. You can't blame him. Right?
you know,
You can't blame
so
him.
he hit a home run, and and listen, man. But it was one of those things that decisions needed to be made,
yeah.
kind of thing, and it was a situation that I didn't want to force the decision. He needed to make it alone.
Yeah.
So there were discussions, I think the thing is when you have an unplanned pregnancy, you have uncomfortable decisions. Do we get rid of it? Do we this and that? And we had all those kind of discussions.
Yeah.
And so, as a result of that, we decided, okay, this is it. And he spoke to his family. They're very traditional family as well. So,
yes.
yeah. So he...
Did that make it more difficult for you guys?
The
fact that they were very traditional.
Do you know what? It didn't, because I'm a traditional person myself.
Okay.
So and I think the whole approach was what I expected of a respectful, what I would regard a respectful family. So the fact that he spoke to his family, I think my only grievance was that there were conversations of marriage, but I hadn't had the proposal.
Oh, okay.
And that was the thing where I was like...
There was a missing piece of the jigsaw.
Yeah. Because for me, I'm like, oh... I was sitting in his family room. I've been called, okay, I'd love for you to meet my parents. And I'm sitting there with the bun in the oven. And he switches off the TV and he says, Mom, Dad, this is Priya, my girlfriend. I want her to be my wife, kind of thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, wife? Kind of thing. So, so it, as much as it intimidated me, but it also humbled me at the same time, because I'm like, all right, if he's doing this in the most respectful way, considering the circumstance, that whole stigma thing is not going to be that bad.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So you guys got married?
We got married, 6 months pregnant. So I was there in my wedding dress. And it was a lovely wedding. We had family. It wasn't the just friends thing. We had family, respected people within our communities,
nice.
Kind of thing. So they did us proud.
The real deal,
Yeah, we had the real deal. We had all the traditional stuff covered, everything.
So what went wrong?
What went wrong was that his version of truth was always missing. There was no truth in a lot of things, and I sort of found out the hard way.
So this wasn't obvious when you guys were dating?
It was no, it wasn't.
No? Okay.
No, it wasn't. And with hindsight, I've sort of sat down and I thought, I'm sure the signs must have been there.
Yeah, there might have been, yeah.
But, I think I was so in love and he was so keen to keep me impressed. But I believe I only had one opportunity to discover the truth, which he denied profusely. Like, he was like, no, it's not me, it's my boy.
What was that around?
It was around how he made his money. So So it was yeah. The funny thing is, I think that's what made the dating situation sweet, because we were going places. This
guy was flossing some money.
He was flossing money. We were riding on Addison Lee, back in the days when Addison Lee was the ride.
Yeah.
So it was nice that we were doing so many things, going to Swarovski, doing like really nice things. And it's weird though, because when we would date, he would drop me at work. I used to work in central London. And he'd be like, babes, no, I'm dropping you at the door. I'm like, yes,
this guy was
king.
Going in,
He was going in. He'd drop me at the door and I'd be like, but what about you? Where are you going? He's like, I'm going to work. And, we'd be sitting in his car. He's got the work pass. So he's got everything that you would think a working guy has.
So this was a credible organization in your mind. You're like, yeah, this guy's going to work. He's got the work pass. He's going, okay.
Exactly,
Did he ever tell you what he did? Did he tell you his job title?
Oh yeah, he had a fantastic job title, and he had certificates, certificates to back it up. But the thing is, sometimes when people are into fraud, they can fraudulently have some documents as
yeah.
well, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I think the thing is discovering that literally put a huge dent in who we were, because we were coming from a foundation of being honest and putting a friendship to it and all of that. And now to get to a space where we're like, yo, what's the truth? And the thing is, and I questioned that. I questioned it. The first time I was exposed to it was when the police came knocking at the door. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? Actually, no. The first time I questioned it, you know, like when you're in love and you're like, oh, yo, I got this dude.
Yeah.
You Google them.
Yeah.
I Googled him.
As women do.
And I'm like, yo, let me Google my boo, you know, kind of thing. So I Google him and find a story about him. And I'm like, yo, Mandip is a big man, you know. So I'm looking at this story. So I call him up. I'm like, do you know your name's on the paper? And he got vexed. We broke up. We actually broke up because he went on flip mode. And I was like, nigga, no. Sorry. I was like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
And so after that, he came with a story. Yo, my boy used my name. Man's not a snitch. This, that.
Of course,
and I'm like, yeah, but you know that guy code. I get that, but if your name's being like this and we're trying to build a life, it's not gonna.
You know, people see you, not your
exactly.
You know, not your brother.
You know, so that was the first
hint of something.
Yeah,
okay.
But the thing is, because I took it as in his boy, and the funny thing is, the boy that he mentioned, it was somebody that I didn't like. So for me, it was more ammo to say, see, this is why I don't like your brethren.
Yeah.
This is why I don't like him. He's so disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. So that was the first hint. And then the second time was, I think it was the Christmas after we were married.
Okay.
That's when the police came knocking. And I was like, what's going on here? And he tried to say the same thing. But for me, already alarm bells were ringing.
Yeah.
And now I had to have a secret. You know, I had to keep that, you know, so this is like our first Christmas after our marriage, and a brother's on bail whilst police investigate whatever it is that they're accusing him. So that stung a little, you know, compared to coming from a situation where I'm like new wife, bling on the finger, new Mercedes, you know, kind of thing. So it's one of those where I was like, yo, couldn't tell the parents, couldn't tell my siblings, nobody.
And by this time, you had a bun in the oven? But was
by
your
this
bun
time,
out?
the bun was out.
Okay.
The bun was out, and it was a wee baby.
And that obviously adds to the complication in terms of decisions on what to do, because these alarm bells are going beep, 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 beep.
Exactly, you know, and the thing is, because the more kept going, the blame kept going more on that one individual, and so for me, my radar was like, no, we're not dealing with this person, no friendship, nothing. And I did not actually see that, well, hold on a minute, I'm kind of being shortchanged here, you know. So that's when
the cracks started.
That's when the cracks started.
So the police came in, they asked a few questions, they were doing the investigations. Did anything come out of it that contributed to you guys actually now eventually splitting?
It contributed a lot. I think if there was a deal breaker, it was that. And I think the thing is, it was that for many reasons. I think for me, why it was such a deal breaker was because I didn't know from the get-go. I didn't know this is what you're into, Mandip, you know, kind of thing. So you didn't. So the person who I thought I was riding and dying with is somebody who I don't necessarily know. So I really kind of felt like I didn't know the person I was married to. And I think one of the painful things about it was that when this whole thing escalated, because the first incident, nothing really happened, and they were like, oh, we can't do nothing about it. And then, but the thing is, they still kept him under their radar. And then when the second thing blew up, I came, you know, child is in nursery, I'm coming home, and there's a white geezer in my house. And I'm thinking, whoa, you know, that freaked me out. And I think the thing is to go through a situation like that where the man, the protector, is not in the home, and there's this stranger in my house.
Oh, yeah.
It's a violation,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I felt so violated. And then when I looked at how they'd violated my house, because when there's something to be found, like how when you're looking for something,
They go in.
You go in as an individual. So imagine these people, they went in, they were finding things that I didn't know existed in my home. I had a man that I thought, oh man, he can clean the house, he can do this.
Man, he was tucking stuff away.
He was tucking stuff away. And the funny thing is, I used to be there with the girls saying, girls, you need to marry a man like mine. I don't need to worry. He cleans, he cooks. But it was also that I wouldn't fuss. So, I would walk in, and sometimes I used to feel like inadequate to some extent, because I'm like, man, he cleans, he cooks. What am I meant to do? Just sex him? Kind of thing. So it was a proud thing to have, and obviously having an Asian guy like him who's meant to be traditional, woman, you do this, to turn out to be such a soft guy. I really felt like, what, I had landed. I had proper landed, But that's when things just it kind of, I think for me, it threw me.
Yeah.
It threw me. I didn't.
It would, because remember, you had a checklist.
Yeah.
And, you had all these boxes that had to be ticked, and this guy had ticked them, and you said he was an 8. He had gone above and beyond.
Honestly. And the thing is, like when we say king, for me, it was like, man, this is my king. This is it. I literally, even my prayer life, I was like, I'm not going nowhere else. This is it. I'm made, kind of thing. But the thing is, when you experience a heartbreak like that, it shakes the foundation on what you've been building this thing on. It shakes you as an individual, because remember, second date, I thought he was the one.
Oh yeah.
And he had met my prayer list, everything. So for me to now
deal with what you didn't see coming threw you off balance completely.
It did. And it threw my judgment, because I was now like, yo, what made me think, how come I didn't see these things? And I think some of the things that hurt was the fact that when you are espoused, people think you know each other exclusively and conclusively, kind of thing. So the fact that people were like, you didn't know, that hurt. Like, because, I was the preaching person who'd be like, yo, you need to marry a man like mine. Like, even though he got me pregnant outside of marriage, he did right by me,
So just out of curiosity, were some of these people who were saying you didn't know, those people you're telling that you need to marry a guy who's like this, blah, 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 did they know? Or this is people outside of your circles who...
People outside my circle didn't know.
Oh.
People, you know what? I think the thing is, when you're building an institute like marriage, you try and fortress it.
Yeah.
You're protective of it. And the thing is, and to be honest with you, at the time, I wasn't sure whether it was a mistake, because all this time I kept thinking it was his boy. So now to be in a place where it's him. So I'm now sitting here with this whole, babe, you need to sort it out because your boy's done it again, kind of thing. Not realizing that this is in my home, it's him. And if I tell you, I would try and have discussions with his family, and then, okay, let me rewind a bit.
Yeah.
A lot of what I found out about how big this thing was in court.
Yikes.
So I'm sleeping with you, doing everything with you, we're making family and everything, but who you really are, I'm finding it from people who are not a part of us. They're not a part of our unit or our extended family. These are total strangers who are serving queen and country, and they're telling me things about you. I'm literally like,
discovering all this stuff about you from
and
others,
and I'm now realizing that it's not just that one thing that I saw on Google.
It's a whole network of
There's a whole network. And not only that, you're the godfather. You're the big man. So it was one of those things where it's like, dude, you're the godfather of this whole thing. That hurt. It stung. And then now And it's weird that because at the time when I was due to go to court, I found out I was pregnant.
Ooh, baby number 2.
Baby number 2. So like, so because with the way everything was going, it was slow paced, but the baby was growing. So there were people, I shan't mention who, but there were people that were like, you don't need to be going to court in your state and this, that. And I'm like, nah, he's my husband. I'm riding with him because I'm still thinking his boy.
Jeez.
Say Imam.
Yeah.
So now obviously I'm heavily pregnant sitting in court and I'm being referred to as the wife, by whoever. Yeah. And I'm discovering things about this king that I didn't know and who's turning out to be a jester right in front of my eyes. I had put him on such a pedestal that...
He couldn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, he couldn't do anything wrong. He was somebody that my friends should aspire to, when you're with your friends and you're telling your friends, yeah, like if he's got any of his brethren, I'll hook you up, kind of thing.
Of course, yeah.
I really put him on such a high pedestal, So to now see the pedestal being broken apart right in front of my eyes, I was left thinking I was in love with the mirage.
Yeah.
It was all a dream.
Yeah.
That's what hurt about it. I was now in a position I couldn't separate what was the truth and what was the lie, because this is somebody who I'm hearing in court that he didn't have a day's work. He was out on the road. He was doing this, and I'm thinking, no, my husband leaves the house at 6 o'clock in the morning,
so he goes into a building somewhere, and he's got qualifications to back it up.
Exactly. So for me, it was like, no, you got it all wrong. It's definitely his boy. And then they're explaining certain things, and I think where it really, really hit was when they were now explaining the day that I found that man in my house. When they were now explaining that day, it started to make sense because it was a day when he didn't want to look after the baby. I'm like, I gotta go to work. And he's like, no, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll sort out the childminder. But the childminder was only available for a short time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but make sure you pick him up. And, so I was trying to really enforce that he needed to be there.
Yes.
And he was trying to push that he's not available.
Yeah.
So all of that was happening. So when they were now just explaining what was occurring on that day with this criminal side of his, it was starting to hit me.
Sense, yeah.
It was making sense, kind of thing. And those were some of the things that were now hurting me. And the second hurt was the fact that with the history that they were saying he had, I was like, his family knew.
Oh.
That hurt because all this while, through marriage, through everything, ain't nobody say, a
single word to you.
Yeah, and I think that hurt that his family didn't think to drop it in a conversation or say, man, I hope you changed, or I hope you're not doing what you're doing. And then for me to say, babe, what did you used to do? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so all of that didn't seem like a surprise with some of the family members that were in court with me. And so when I then questioned it, that you guys didn't say nothing, they were like, are we in your marriage? Kind of thing. And I'm like, yo, you were meant to be family, kind of thing. So that hurt, that stung a lot.
So what then led you to say, I'm out of here then? What was the final straw for you to say, no, this is not going to happen?
Realizing that he hadn't changed because obviously with the first incident, he spent time in the pen.
Okay.
And so I was now raising these beautiful children.
How long are we talking here?
Half sentence, I think it was like 3 years.
Okay.
Being the godfather.
Yeah.
Of the
main
whole
man.
thing. Being the main man. Yeah. So he spent a good 3 years absent, but in beautiful letters. It's amazing how being in separate places, we had beautiful love letters. He writes beautifully. Kind of thing.
He kind of gave you a hint of that right from the first time when he said hello to you in the way that you expected in a kebab shop. So he knows how to do the right things the right way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And and it was beautiful because the thing is, I think it helped a lot. It helped get us back back into that space, because now I'm like, okay, now I know this. What else do I need to know? Because obviously on my own, I'm now thinking, who is he? Who is he?
Yeah.
And then realizing that, okay, obviously the guy that I fell in love with doesn't exist. Now, I still love you enough to try and find out who you are, kind of thing. And now tell me who you are. And he's telling me, babe, that was the only lie, everything else that I showed you.
But how credible is that going to be?
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so in love.
Eesh.
Like, so it was one of those things that he explained a lot of things. And it's like when he came out, it was like, okay, we're still going to ride together. We now know. And we kept it a secret. Nobody in our network, even the girls that I was preaching with, they didn't know, and it was easy to cover as well, because him obviously being from another country, it was easy to say, listen, some family stuff broke out. He's the man for the job, so he's away.
So he's gone.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and obviously there'll be times when he'll be calling me and I'm with my girls and I'm like, baby, kind of thing. So it was easy to cover up little things like that. But it was also lonely. It was lonely because you're crying about certain things and you can't tell your girls because you have to break down the details now. And so when we eventually called it a day, it was because he came out and he was now doing that stuff again.
Oh.
So, and the thing is, and I think he was doing it again because he hadn't prepared himself for
life after.
After. And as much as we preached it and all of that kind of stuff, because we used to talk about it, and I'd be like, babe, like when you come out, you can't be making the same mistakes. We got kids now, we gotta, you gotta let go of that life and this, that. So obviously for him to come out, he just got better at hiding it from me. And so he's trying to hide it, but then at the same time, I was also now much the wiser.
Yeah. You've clocked on.
I've clocked, and I'm starting to see things, things that I wouldn't have looked out for before. Like when somebody's like, oh, babe, I'm going out for 3 weeks and I'm going to be at this place. You're like, oh, cool, no problem. But now I'm like, with who? Where? What car are you driving? What, kind of thing. You're asking specific things because you want it to be like that. You're forced to be like that.
Yeah.
So, I started to see things that pretty much suggested that life ain't changed. And to be honest with you, I think he also now was a bit arrogant about it. He now had that, know about it.
Exactly.
So,
this is who I am, so now it's up to you to either take it or leave it.
Exactly. So he had the whole, you now know about it, so let man just have one hit. And it could change our lives. It could change our lives. And I'm like, no, So I think now it was now a matter of integrity that we were fighting over.
Yeah.
And I had to let him go. And I let him go whilst I was still very much in love with him.
Jeez.
And that was the painful thing, the realizing that I got to let you go. Because I remember when I kicked him out, I didn't expect him to go out. I expected him to go out and scream and think, oh my gosh, I'm losing everything.
I mean, this is almost taking it a few years back to the time that you left the car to go to the bus.
Exactly.
And he came running after the bus.
Yeah.
So you expected him to sort of come running after you again.
I really expected that. And it's weird though, because I never told him that. I don't think I ever told him that I expected you to scream and shout and fuss about it. But what I realized is that when I was like, get out, he was like, oh, I can do it without nobody nagging, And but he would still be begging to come back, like, babe, I love you. You can't cope with the kids. We got to do this together with family. Yeah. But I'm looking and I'm thinking, we're family, but you're still doing this on the side.
And I'm not about that life.
Yeah, and I'm not about that life. And truly, I wasn't cut up for it. And, and the painful part is realizing that you think someone is the one, but also realize that you're not his wife. That hurt me because I'm like, I'm not his wife. Oh my gosh, I'm not his wife. Because I always had the theory that if you are the person's wife, you know how to speak to the king and the fool in them.
True.
And I just figured I can't deal with this fool. I really can't. The king I love, he good to me, but the foolishness was just on some next thing, So, so I had to let it go. And Yeah, and to let it go, I did.
So how long has it been?
Oh gosh, okay, it's about 6. No. We're now in 2020 nearly. So yeah, it's about 8 years.
About 8 years.
Yeah.
So how are you holding up now? Are you okay with the situation? Are you finally ready to try and find the other one?
Oh yeah, totally.
Good.
Totally. I mean, the thing is, because I took my time.
Yeah.
I didn't rush out of it. And when I was saying my goodbyes to the family, I did it with my head held high.
I can really see why you'd feel that you were shortchanged with your experience. Because you went in with this view of something that ended up not being that at all.
Yeah, it was very, very, and it was disappointing because the thing is, to be shortchanged when you've invested everything, it's painful.
Yeah.
Because you got to rediscover a lot of things. I had to rediscover myself, my faith, everything. And yeah, but sometimes even with the tuppence that you're left with,
Yeah.
it can actually grow if you
can.
continue to invest. And I think I'm in a position now where I'm like, I'm doing all right, So yeah, I've enjoyed building up again, and and I take pleasure in thinking, oh, I did this.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did
of course,
that.
yeah.
There are certain things that obviously it would have been nice to raise kids with you. It would have been nice to see the children grow together. But the thing is, it's acknowledging that if it's not good,
Yeah.
you can't have a healthy plant in really mucky soil, kind of thing. And I think where I am now, I'm pretty good.
It's a much better place.
Yeah.
So the lesson again?
The lesson is being free. It's the liberty to be you, and to overcome stigmas that you might think happen. Because some of the things that cages are things that we're thinking, what would people think?
Yeah.
What would people say? And for me to be able to talk about it as well, it's because I realized that it's my story. I've lived it and I've come out on the other side.
And you've been free.
And
you
I've
freed
been
yourself.
free.
Of
Yeah,
that,
and I've freed myself from it. And there's not really, I wouldn't want to do it again. No, I wouldn't.
So is your first question now, what do you do for work? Well, for those who are listening to this episode, I hope you've learned the lesson that in whatever situation you find yourself, always try and be free. And if your guy is not telling you what he's doing for work, keep an eye out for that stuff. You've been listening to The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling.
Satis on Daru Raini and Chagis.
Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
Satis on Daru Raini and Chagis.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujiziru amai.
Kujiziru amai. Love is a fire.
Urudoi motoru noto kujiziru amai.